First of all, if somebody wants to, who's first to arrive?
Us too.
We both,
You
yeah.
were? Can you kind of describe what did you come across when you arrived? What did you see?
Okay, well, when we first got there, the house was fully engulfed in flames. From the back of the house, we could hear a lady screaming. We got to the back of the house, and she was telling us that her elderly mother, was inside. So Crosby and I worked on trying to get the door open. There was a bystander there. We never figured out who he was, but he helped us. And his help really is what helped us get in the door.
Describe it from your point of view.
Yeah, when we got on scene, it was pretty much full engulfed, and there was several people, kind of all around screaming, kind of to get things calm. We finally found the lady who had called, or one of the ladies who had called, and she was saying she was a neighbor. She didn't know who was inside. She believed there was an elderly, she said, lady inside she knows lived there. And then when we went to the back of the house, we found her daughter, who was saying that her mother was trapped inside elderly, and she had no idea where she was in the house. But she thought she was somewhere in the back. So that's all we had at that time.
So you decided to...
We started working on the door. We started kicking the door, and Deputy Fisher was running around looking for something to pry it. It was an outswing door, so we were having trouble getting it off. And we had one of the bystanders actually had a large broom and a 2x4 bust a window out. And then that's when made entry into the window to start looking around, and ended up in a bedroom. Couldn't really make it any further than that through the smoke and the heat, so went back out through the bedroom window and started working on the door again. And that's when W. Bueller arrived, and we all started working on the door together, and eventually got it open and pulled her out.
And where did you find her?
She was laying just inside the back door, just a few feet. Looks like she tried to make her way out and didn't quite make it before the smoke finally got her.
So you were the one who went into the house with the fire?
All three of us were on the threshold.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that decision to go into the home when, risk your own lives. I mean, fire wasn't there yet. You didn't have the proper breathing equipment. What makes you decide to go into that house?
It wasn't really a decision. There was no decision. You just went in.
All of us signed up to do stuff like that, so we wouldn't have came to work here if we weren't willing to do different things like that.
I mean, how intense was? I mean, the fire. I mean, it had to be pretty intense at that point. How intense how would you describe the intensity of the fire? I mean, just
scale of 1 to 10, about a 10. It was hot.
And your thoughts just, I gotta go. I mean, tell me about that. I mean,
when you arrive on a situation like that, it's not so much whether you're questioning what you got to do, but given the information we were given and the way the scene played out and where the flames were, they weren't all the way to the rear of the house. They were closing in pretty quick. We were lucky enough with the two gentlemen that were there, who are still not identified, but helpful bystanders, that, as luck would have it, she wasn't that far in the house, and the door was able to open just enough for us to squeeze in and grab her. And it took all three of us, as well as the two of them, to get her out because of the nature of the way the house was coming down. The flames were pretty hot. It got to the point it was so hot that when we pulled her out and immediately beyond the door, we couldn't even start CPR there because our faces were they were getting very hot. So we had to move to the street. Luckily enough, Sarasota Fire was immediately coming on scene, and we didn't have to apply very, very long of any medical attention because they were there to assist.
Was she unconscious?
She was, but she was breathing.
Talk a little bit about the training you'd received up to this point. I know, Deputy Fisher, you'd only been 3 days on the job here, but talk a little bit about that training and how well you were prepared to handle a situation like this.
We go through this type of things in service all the time, twice a year, and we just recently last year did a whole day or half a day on different CPR training and different medical attention. That's why when we pulled her out and I started CPR, the compressions, we stopped immediately once she started breathing because we knew we didn't need to continue, and we got her out of the danger area so fire could get in there and get everything finished up. So just that type of training kicks in pretty quick. And
we're very lucky at this agency that we get to train quite a bit and drill a lot of the CPR drills and a lot of the hazardous response drills that we may come into contact with on a daily basis. We train on that quite a bit to where it becomes pretty standard as far as what we have to do. And since we're all involved in that training, it's pretty systematic when we get somewhere, what one person has to do. And the other person who arrives, who may not be in the middle of helping Deputy Crosby and Fisher getting there, you just simply have to find work, find a place you could be useful, find a solution, find some other avenue to assist. And that's what each person runs through their mind when they go to this scene. Not so much as this is scary or I shouldn't do this or questioning myself, but it's just simply finding something to do.
It was your third day on the job?
Yeah, it was my third day out of training, so.
Third day out of training.
Yes.
A lot of people wait a long time for their hero moment.
I guess so. I guess I got started early.
Feel good?
Oh yeah, I'm glad that I got the opportunity to see my hard work, my training, to put it in real life situations. So.
And you talk about 3 days on the job, but have either of you dealt with anything like this? I mean, had similar instances or anything like this that you've had to come in contact with in terms of trying to save someone, CPR?
Been near a burning building, never had to go in one.
Done CPR before and dealt with some structure fires, but never trying to make my way in and trying to be actually inside. It's a big difference inside and outside structure like that.
And the word hero came up. I mean, what do you say to that when somebody says, you're only heroes for doing what you did?
These days in law enforcement, that word is very nice to hear from the public. However, there's a lot of law enforcement deputies that have made greater sacrifices, and they're more fitting for that word. So the compliments are appreciated, but we just simply were doing what anybody else in that situation would do.
Do we know how the woman's doing? Have you had any contact?
Yes.
From last we heard, she was still in the hospital and critical but stable. So last we were told.
James, can you talk a little bit about another situation you had with Sergeant Tolles, I believe?
Not his first save. He won't say it. He'll say somebody else now.
We had a situation a few years back where I was driving down the road actually in the hiring process here and drove by and saw an individual jogging. When I came back by, he was on the ground and ended up getting out and performed CPR for a while, and he ended up coming back, and later on it was discovered he worked here. So I was in the process getting hired here. I actually was due to being here the next morning at 8 a.m. to pick up my ID card. So.
Sped the application up a little bit.
I bet it did.
So anybody going to hang up their badge and join the fire department?
Never.
No.
But that's interesting that you have their perspective now. Do you appreciate what the fire department does more? Not saying you didn't appreciate what they do, but having firsthand experience going into a burning building, it must kind of alter your feelings about.
I mean, we always have. We know what they do. We have our specialties. They have theirs. So there's always a mutual respect there. So
It's not very often we get to see multiple engines and multiple personnel from all different stations come together. And just like we were speaking of earlier of a systematic approach because everybody's universally trained, it is pretty amazing to watch all of them work together to be able to put out. This was a pretty large blaze. So it did take a lot of personnel and a lot of leadership and a lot of people working together to get that under control. So it is something that's pretty magnificent to watch. It doesn't happen all the time.
So talk about how your people responded and how you feel about what they did.
Well, how I feel is obviously very proud, but I got a lot of people out there that I'm proud of every day. But certainly this incident stands out as one of those that we all look back on, and we're just very thrilled that they were able to be there as quickly as they were, reacted as quick as they did, in the manner that they did, to help our community and take care of each other in the process. It's a very scary situation as a patrol commander when you hear that one of your guys has to go to the hospital for whatever is going on. In this case, it was a smoke inhalation incident. So I was awake a little bit into the night just to make sure that he was treated and released and that everybody else was okay. But I'm just very thrilled that they were able to get there as quick as they did, respond the way they did, and of course the fire department getting there as quick as they did also. Outstanding.
Chief, talk a little bit about, how it feels that other agencies can collaborate together. This is something fire wasn't there on the scene. Talk a little bit about how you feel that there are sheriff's employees who are going to step up, when they do get there first.
Absolutely. These deputies are heroes in my eyes. We're very grateful that what they did. We were not on scene yet, and to have the collaboration that we have, the partnership that we have through the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department, we work well together always, and it's just another example of that collaboration that we do. And of course, they are heroes. They went in, they took care of the issue at hand. We weren't there yet, and they made a difference.
And talk a little bit about, you know, how they did it. You know, obviously they saved the woman in the end, but do you think that this is something where in the future there should be multi-agency training about, you know, the proper way to handle a situation when they do get on scene to something like that?
Certainly. We tried to collaborate with training as much as possible already. The education that they receive, a lot of times it's shared CPR and training such as that. Upon arrival at a fire scene, there's a lot of things going on with the fire department. We rely heavily on law enforcement to help us with that, and they do a great job. As my partner here said, you know, to have that out there to make sure that everybody's safe, goes home safe, is tremendous. So this is just a great example of that collaboration, like I said.